it's Sarah back with another video. She is back in Melbourne and it's been awesome to be home. But it's been an amazing couple of weeks in Adelaide and Sydney, and I'm just so grateful for the Lord. He is so wonderful. And I've just been feeling all the things the last couple of days with the Lord, and he's just been reminding me that there's so much power in our vulnerability, and that there's so much beauty when we are just soft-hearted and easily moved by Him. And yeah, I think sometimes we just get in our heads where we kind of, just so much advice going on where people will say all sorts of things where you need to be like this and you need to do this and then you'll be qualified and then you'll be able to go to this season and that season and you'll get this and you'll get that. But I've just been reading through Mark, and it's just wonderful because, yeah, it's just straight to the point, which is so funny. But I love it because the first couple of chapters is when Jesus is calling all of the disciples, and it's just so simple. Like, I love this passage in Mark 2, verse 13. It's literally the calling of Levi. And Jesus is walking along. He saw Levi, son of Alphaeus, sitting at the tax collector's booth. "Follow me," Jesus told him, and Levi got up and followed him. That was it. That was it. And just over and over again, when Jesus is calling these disciples, all he does is say, "Follow me," and they just get up straight away and follow Jesus. And sometimes we work this all up and we get all religious and we think, oh, we have to be perfect and we have to have it all together and God will use us. No, this is the calling of the disciples. It was really simple. The Lord simply said, "Would you follow me?" Like, follow me. And then they decided to get up out of what was comfortable, what was easy, which, is not easy to do, but they chose to leave what they had behind and follow Jesus. And that's simply all that the Lord asks of us. And sometimes I'll have these moments where I'm like, how am I doing this, Lord? Like, I'm not the most perfect, I'm not the most qualified, but all the Lord asks from us is that we would be available, that we would be dependent on Him, that we would take up our cross and follow Him. We would leave everything behind, and that He would be our first priority. He would be the one that we look to and we rely on. And I'm constantly reminded that it is not my strength, it is not my ability that I'm going in. It is the Lord's grace. It is the Lord's kindness upon us that equips us to do what He's called us to do. And He opens the doors, He makes the way. And if He does, then we can trust that He will equip us to do all that He's called us to do. And yeah, there's definitely times where I'm like, wow, Lord, how is this all going to happen? And it can be weary, but we go in the Lord's strength and His ability. And yeah, it's funny getting back from these trips, and I think I got back and I was like, oh, I'll be so refreshed and so full of energy, and I am in my spirit, but my flesh is like, what is going on? Because we've been fighting in the spirit the last couple of weeks and conquering ground and doing things for the Lord, and so my flesh is having this little moment. But it's the Lord. He is the one who graces us with the ability to do far more than we think we can do in our own ability, because we can't without the Lord. And I think, coming back, I was like, oh yes, I should feel so strong and so put together and I can conquer the world. But actually, that's not the goal. That's what the world has made it out to be. You'll achieve this and you'll speak at this and you'll do this and then you'll just keep going and you can do it all now, and that's actually not God's heart. Is, the more responsibility, the more opportunities He gives us, the more we need to be dependent on Him. And I think I was asking the Lord today, why do I feel so fragile? Why do I feel so vulnerable? And the Lord reminded me of this beautiful passage in 2 Corinthians 4, verse 7. And it's talking about treasures in jars of clay. And I love this because the Lord just reminded me, this is what He was speaking to me about before I left 2 weeks ago. And it's 2 Corinthians 4, verse 7. but we have this treasure in jars of clay to show that this all-surpassing power is from God and not from us. And wow, isn't that it? You know, sometimes we want to put on this big show of like, oh yes, I am this beautiful sculpture and displaying the light of the Lord. Like, no, we're really fragile jars of clay. The Lord is molded in his beautiful way to show the treasure inside and to show that it's not about us. Like, it's not, you know, it's all about the treasure that the Lord has put within us, that we get the joy of shining the light of the Lord through our imperfection, through our fragility, through our weaknesses. The beauty of God's grace shines through. And there's so much beauty in that. And I think, yeah, even when I'm sharing sometimes, I'm like, oh Lord, like, you know, should I be that real? Or like, you know, this is the journey that you're taking these people on and everything. But that's actually where the testimony is. The power of our testimony is not in how great we did everything. The power of our testimony is the goodness of God. It's his kindness that led to our repentance. It's his grace, his, you know, power being made perfect in our weakness, you know, and that's where the power is. That's where the authority is. And so I just felt the Lord encourage us in this season to not fight for this, like, this man-made strength and man-made, like, bravado and effort and look how wonderful I am, but actually like really leaning into that vulnerability, leaning into that authenticity, like being exactly who God has called you to be, not being like anyone else. But the Lord's just been saying over and over to me, and I'm sure this encourages you too, but all that is within you is all that is required. You know, don't try and be like anyone else. Don't try and pretend you have it all together. God has called you for your season, for your area, for your job, for your role, for your community for a reason. And don't put up all these walls, don't put up all these barriers, but allow the beauty of God's grace and vulnerability and teachability to really lead other people to Christ. Like, people are looking for those people that they can, you know, be open with and receptive with. And yeah, we don't need to have it all together. Like, praise God, we don't have to be perfect. And so yeah, allow yourself to show that to other people, that you don't have it all together, and that's okay, because God's got you and he wants to use you no matter how imperfect you are. And yeah, God can do so much through us when we are just open and we're these, you know, imperfect vessels, but we've emptied ourselves so God can fill us with all he wants to fill us with. And he can fill us with that joy. He can fill us with that peace. He can fill us with the energy that we need for the day. He can give us the eyes to see those people that just need a friend, need someone to talk to, need a smile, need a wave. And yeah, I've just been asking the Lord to help me to be more intentional about that too. Not just breeze through life and not just, yeah, go to the next thing and the next thing, but really show the love of Jesus to the people around us and to show his beauty, to show his grace. That, you know, I love this next verse where it says, we are hard pressed on every side, but not crushed, perplexed, but not in despair, persecuted, but not abandoned, struck down, but not destroyed. And I think sometimes we have this like false wanting to achieve, you know, this perfection and having it all together and, you know, not going through challenges and just coming out the other side. But, you know, this is the encouragement from the Lord, that his light shines through our brokenness. His light shines in the midst of despair. And, you know, he wants to use every challenge for his glory, every trial for his glory. And we can have joy in the midst of every season. And he trains us for battle. He trains us for battle. Like, if the last 2 weeks have taught me anything, it's that the Lord gives us all that we need. He prepares the way for us, before us. He prepares us in ways that we never could expect to need in those moments. And sometimes we go, oh, I'm so unqualified for this. And it's like, no, the Lord has been preparing you. He has been equipping you with all that you need. It just wasn't the things that you expected to need. You know, He doesn't need you to have all the knowledge in the world. He doesn't need you to be the oldest and wisest person in the room. Like, your wisdom comes from the Lord. Your insight comes from the Spirit. He can give you words of knowledge. He can give you insight that no one else has in that moment because you're listening and tuning into Him. And how wonderful that we can be fully dependent on Him, and He gives us everything that we need and more. And so, yeah, I just wanted to encourage you. Allow yourself to be vulnerable. Allow yourself to be real with the Lord and with the people that He wants you to be real with too. Don't put up those walls. Don't put up those barriers and pretend you have it all together, because the power of your testimony is showing that the Lord is in you and with you in every season. And just allow that to shine through, His beauty, His grace to shine through your broken pieces and your imperfections. And people won't even see that. They'll just see the Lord because you're trusting and dependent on Him. And so, yeah, this is my encouragement. You don't have to be perfect to be used by God. You just have to say yes when He calls you to follow Him. That's it. You just have to say yes. Use me, Lord. Use me in all of my weaknesses and all of my imperfections. Would you use me, Lord? And He will. He will completely use you in ways that you never expected, because you laid down your life and surrendered it to Him. So how amazing is He? He's just the best. So I pray this encourages you, friends, that you can be used by God no matter what. Hope you have an amazing rest of your week, friends. I'll be praying for you. Bye.